But hey, here we are again. What is this?
Finally back from our long vacation.
Of I'll tell you what, it's been crazy this Lenten season in the church right now. I mean, there's so much going on in the
Really
world, and
is.
there's so many people coming into the Orthodox Church right now that it's like overwhelming. Every church you go to, there's just an overwhelming amount of people coming into the faith.
Well, when you get the true faith, that's what happens.
Well, we know that Wheel of Time is certainly not based on that world.
No, I think I have a note of one comment that I thought was orthodox out of episode one. I didn't hear another a statement or see another symbol that I thought that is orthodoxy. So that we got one.
Okay, let's hear the one.
It says we lose our souls a true death, implying that not losing your soul is not a true death, which is
Yeah.
orthodox.
The other thing I noticed about Wheel of Time and when I was reading it all those times through was the time stuff to me is the thing that drew me to it in the first place because I love time things that have to do with time.
Me too. Yep.
And
Yep.
and I'm trying to think of what other things because it's not reincarnation per se the way that it's in reality the way reincarnation is described and understood the way people think of it. It's not like that because they never come back as animals or
No.
any other creatures or anything like that. So that makes it different than most reincarnation ideas. And the other thing, the only other thing I found that's like it is the view that Patton had of himself.
Right.
And so even though he wasn't the same person per se, but he was always a warrior, like he was a Taviran or something in a way that Patton viewed himself very similarly in that he was alive in all these different times to be the perfect warrior.
The one I heard recently was that in one of his lives he was in Lebanon in biblical times,
Right.
whereas before that he had been in Carthage, which was the one they document in the Coppola movie.
So
I hear the
do we
battle was here. Remember that whole you know, and then the poem he wrote.
right?
So, but yeah, the idea here is actually a complete circle. It's that the whole cycle repeats, but that there are possibilities for, as we've noted before, endless variations within the set overall pattern, and that different decisions stochastically can produce all kinds of butterfly effects in terms of how the story plays out, which is what they are finding out in this movie about how they're trying to change little things and then watching the whole thing blow up in their faces on all kinds of different plot points and story threads.
We
Um,
talked about this in the first when we were doing these videos before in the first season. You touched on the problems when you take certain big themes and you change them. You don't realize because it's such a huge series. You don't realize the repercussions a lot of times until you get there. So they've already made all this stuff, and they
mhm.
don't. And sometimes you don't see how bad the repercussions are. Maybe it looks good on paper, but then when you put it out on screen and you see it all playing out, you're like, "Uh oh, maybe we shouldn't have done that."
Yeah, the big mistake they've just made is sending Min to Tanchico instead of Tom. That is just a bonehead move.
That
It
is a
literally is
bonehead
a
move,
bonehead move.
right?
It screws up whatever was going to happen in the tower. I because Varen cannot be a substitute for Min, and she's the only character currently in position to do the Min job when the revolt happens, and she's not equipped to do that.
Yep.
Um, Even if she is covert black, which is not at all clear to me.
Who?
Um,
Who?
the
Elida?
Varen,
Oh,
Varen,
Varen. They definitely alluded to it with that one scene that we saw in the best episode, episode four.
you mean Naomi? When Naomi calms her and Adelaus, and
Well,
then scrambles Adelaus's brain? That scene?
So which one was so yeah, no, when they find the dagger, the person dead, and then Baron just shows up all of a sudden, and then Nynaeve says Baron.
Never asked. Yeah, that's and beautifully that's straight from the book. That is
Right.
literally a scene from the book.
So that
But
was
they
cool.
dropped those like member berries, and so that was they didn't
Which
profit from.
episode, which what was that? Was that 4? That was 4, right? No, that was 3. Was it
That
3?
was three. That was three. It's a good scene, but it's dropped in, and they don't profit from it, and it doesn't affect Varen's actions, and it doesn't affect the girl's actions either. It's
Right.
just a well, let's I guess it's a steer clear here. You hear, like in where that they're going to now do their researches and try and not have involve Varen as much as they can, because now they don't trust her either, like they were ever supposed to. But
Right. And here
um,
we're talking about this part right here in the episode 3,
yeah,
and there's the dead person right there,
uh-huh.
and then right. So then we get you know a little bit
Yeah,
further,
Varen just pops around the corner, and
and then there's Varen all of a sudden, like, oh, and then she says, hey, I didn't say anything about that. She didn't say anything about that, and they did set it up really good there as far as indicating that she might be a suspect.
they left the door open. There is um, uh, she is not pursuing the task that she would do if she was more canonical, which is
So
she's
the
supposed to
thing,
be out. Remember, she's supposed to be out finding the rest of the blacks. That's
but
her big
they did
job.
button that up, and they did have Suen make them her dogs. That was like legit.
Sure,
You're
but I'm
gonna
talking
be
about
my
Vera.
dogs, my hounds or whatever,
Right?
to go
Yeah.
find out all these people. So they're on that trek to try to
Yeah.
do that. Is correct. They put that correctly in line. Uh,
And they actually very creatively got him there by having him go through those papers and have her go, oh, yeah, they tied back in the sun. They went back to his room and found the symbol,
mm-hmm.
and that led them to Tanchico. And it was a very clever way to do a little detective work. Worked
And
very
that's
well for
great.
them.
They should be going to
That worked
Tanchico,
very
but
well.
Min and
Sure.
Matt should not be going to Tanchico.
No. Matt is supposed to be in the Waste. He was supposed to go to Ruidian.
He's supposed to be there with them.
Right. I know. They couldn't figure out what to do with him because they don't want to do the twisted doorway because they I think they believe that they cannot afford to try and simulate the Aelfin and the Eelfin. It's a
Do you think
total
they
budget
completely
problem with that.
eliminated them too? Because why then? Because Moraine will never go there,
Right.
and Tom will never ever save her.
Right. So
Spoiler
there's no
alert.
need for the Tower of Genjay. There's no, and also
And
that means that this situation. Remember, in episode 5, she
yeah.
reveals to Lan that I got to die, and that this is final. I'm thinking it means Rosamund Pike's leaving the series after next season. She's filming her last scenes right now because,
Well, she's supposed to die.
but she's supposed to come back.
I know, but maybe we'll still save her later. But she's definitely buttoning it up with that. But here's the thing: is so dumb about it. They should have already ended it. There shouldn't be any explanation for between them as far as their relationship and everything. It seals it off as being totally against the book idea and a
Yeah,
completely
that's true.
reimagining of who Moraine is
That's been all
by
along.
I know, but they really sealed the deal with that last little encounter with Sawan Sanche when she, which of course they make Egwene way too adept at dream walking at this point. She's too adept already to be able to focus her, be able to go directly to Swan Sanche's dream and like take her there and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we've been
She's
spared a lot of learning there, haven't we?
Oh my goodness! I mean, we're talking about a gap in like all of a sudden she's like this. She can like navigate herself around and control what she's wearing and everything, and look at all these places and just be able to choose what she wants to see.
You know, it's another thing. They had her do this trip, this um, favor for Moiraine without telling Bear or Melaine. So she has gone into Tel'aran'rhiod or into the dream world without her permission, and so they're in the canonically that's correct, but in the nature of the movie, there was no reason for her not to at least ask Bear and Melane's permission to do this for Moiraine, and that would have been actually that would have been a series of scenes because there would be a whole thing going on between the four women, which would have been human. It would have been narrative, and it would have also I didn't ever need I didn't need Egwene to be so disobedient as she was in the books about going into Tel'aran'rhiod. That didn't work for me
Well, and
ultimately.
here's another. So here's some things that are coming up in my head, and let's just like back up a little bit. We haven't made a video. We're in here 5 episodes in, and we haven't made a what is this
This
segment.
is
So we're
true.
kind of catching up. We weren't super impressed with the first 3 episodes. They were all right, but then all of a sudden we saw episode 4, and we were like, wow, maybe they are going to put it all back together correctly, and everything's going to be great. Just make every episode like episode 4. But of course, we see 5 is not nearly as strong, and we're back to the same kind of and you were pointing out, I haven't been looking at the people behind I haven't been looking at writers. I don't know writers' names. I don't directors' names. I'm not looking at cinematographers.
I don't
We're
know any
not
of their
getting
names.
into. We're not going into major stuff. We're just basing it based off our experience of reading the books and then coming in and trying to make sense of what they're depicting on the screen here, basically.
Right.
Uh,
And actually, by the middle of season 2, we'd pretty much given up any hope that we could ever relate it to the tapestry that Jordan wove. That they were neither of us, if I can speak for you at all, I can certainly speak for myself in this. I was convinced that they were making a very inferior ter, Persian rug out of Wheel of Time when I had seen one that I could have sworn Scheherazade herself wove when
well,
I read it
yeah.
from Jordan. So the story they were weaving was, and the thing that I've been thinking about, and I think the first 3 episodes of this year really hammered that point home for me, was that what Rafe and his gaggle of gigglers have done is simplify and flatten the story. People's motivations are thin at best. People
Yeah.
are doing things for emotional reasons when they had emotional, political, strategic, tactical, a matter of history, friends were involved. The reasons that Jordan had for anybody doing anything was a complex of stuff that it was just like it was like a web that if you pulled one thing, you were going to pull threads everywhere. And whereas these guys have said, "Oh, we'll just have it be." But Marguerite is worried about Elaine. We'll have her go, and that'll do it. No, that's not a trivial trip from Camelin to Tar Valon,
So yeah,
especially under
exactly.
the circumstances.
Hmm.
And I
So
guess I realized that the whole point of that to me, that whole episode almost was get Elida to the tower. That
yeah,
had to have been Gabriel's work. So because obviously Morghese is already under compulsion,
for
and
sure, 100% under compulsion, and
and expertly done. She gives no evidence of not being fully in command of her faculties. Her premises are altered. It's a beautiful bit of acting and of world building in how Robin has actually altered people's memories so cleverly. Just it's actually a thing of beauty.
well,
It's
some of these
it's
things are, yeah, some of these things are good, and we see Elida. We don't know if they're gonna make it. They do leave it open.
no. She's absolutely red. Absolutely,
Well,
they
of
have
course she's
absolutely
red, but
excluded the
whether or not
possibility.
she's a black or not is what I'm
No,
saying.
no, she's no way. She's a black. None at
Yeah,
all.
but
If they do that,
being
then they've lied
compartmentalized,
to
she
us.
could have been trying to find out who who would the other blacks to take care of to get rid of them to make sure that they don't get found and tell and reveal more secrets. I don't know. That's what was going through my
No.
head. There was that time when Egwene goes in through the arches to be accepted in the books, where she is transported to the future and she has a battle. Wasn't it with Elida?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so,
it's
and she
true.
was black for sure then in that
But
alternate reality.
that is Egwene's imagination about the thing. Remember, it
Well,
was
no.
what has been,
Remember, we
what is,
don't.
and what will be. That was the
They
original.
don't. They talk about that in the
That's
book.
what I'm saying. The whole point of why there are three arches in the first place is never addressed in the course of the show. It's a major drop
Well, they
because you
did. I
don't
think they
get
did.
a. Oh,
Didn't they with
really,
Nynaeve when she went through? They kind of said she's like, "Is it real?" So they kind of addressed it because is are they real things? And then said no one knows, which is exactly accurate to what they said in the book. They don't know whether it's real or not. Whether these
well,
are
they know
real
people don't come
pieces
out.
and sure, but
So, but the deal is that, um, in terms of going back to Elida for the moment,
mm-hmm.
Elida is being taken. The whole reason Morghese is induced to go to Tarvalon in the first place, it has to be Robin who suggested to her subliminally what happened to Elaine. He's given her a false report of what happened, but it was just close enough to the truth that it agitated her and got her moving. And then he got her to bring Elida. That was the purpose of that whole exercise. Everything else is persiflage. Robin wanted Elida in the tower because he wants it broken. That's why that whole thing happened. Had nothing to do with Elaine, has nothing to do with the boys. It has everything to do with Elida because she's the
Okay,
only thing that really matters when you leave that whole episode. Morghese herself is a cipher.
right.
She's really not, there's nothing that she brings to any of that. She even gives in to her daughter when her daughter says, "No, I'm staying." Oh, okay. You know what? That sounds good. After basically putting her own reputation on the line about the whole thing in front of everybody.
Yeah,
So she walks away looking a fool.
she does for sure. And
I need. I'm sorry. I need to get centered.
oh, you're fine.
Yeah,
And
I was
you know
backwards.
the thing is that we don't have Tom. This has been my biggest
Yep.
problem is that as far as what they may have thought, these writers, that oh, we could take Tom out. He's really not, but he's like an anchor. He literally is like a foot. Without
More
him,
like
you can't stand up.
he is, and he.
They've almost peg legged him right now. He's not a foot anymore. He's like a peg on
Well,
a, and they
he's
could
not at
bring him.
all.
He's
And
going to show back up. Watch, he'll probably show back up. That, like you said, if you're right, then Moraine will be gone, and then Tom will come back in.
why?
Yeah, but
He has
because
no
she
reason
can't
to
do
come
that.
in at all now.
I don't think Moraine's going anywhere personally. But it
You
would
don't
be
think
the
she's
right
even
time
going to
for her to
die?
be gone. It would be the
You
right
don't.
time for her to be gone.
Well, there's. I mean, I can see that Rosamund Pike, as a professional, is getting. She's getting offers stacked on offers right now because her work is excellent in the show.
Well,
She's doing
she
a
didn't have to
great
do this show.
job.
She's a lover of the books. That's why she did this show. She's a lover of the Wheel of Time books,
Well,
and she. That's why I thought she was going to be great. But honestly, the way that they wrote her, I wonder how much hand she had into it because I'm not particularly happy with this Moraine.
no, well, no, and so that's what I'm
Her
saying. That
performance is
her
amazing.
love for the book sounds to me kind of academic because she's certainly permitting them to alter the character in ways that, um, and but still in all, from a normie point of view, she's doing a fantastic job, and that's what matters in terms of the business of the film industry.
Sure. And this
And
Wheel of
so,
Time depiction that we've been watching has its moments. There's
right,
these
absolutely,
standout moments where we go, "Oh, that it." But hey, that's better than I'll say. They did a better job of like having these moments where you connect as a book reader, where you say, "Oh, that's what I'm waiting for," but then it doesn't keep it up. And in the Lord of the Rings thing, they never had that. So
no.
That's one thing Wheel of
You
Time
never
has
had that,
up over
and
the other franchise.
they didn't have the in and out, is what we're saying in Lord of the Rings. And they had other places don't even really get to the in. At least Wheel of Time has often gotten to the in thing, like the meeting, the way Phyla gets her in sin, kind of gets herself in with Perrin
How do you
is
say it? How
just
are you saying that?
fantastic.
Fail?
I
I
love
always
the
say
actress.
Fail, and you're
I
saying
love her.
Phyla.
I love her.
Yeah. I make
She's
sure we're talking
perfect.
about the same person, right?
She's looks like I always imagine Phyla to look. She talks like her. She has the right smarts and
Yeah,
attitude
she's
and
a perfect
courage.
cast. There
She's
you go.
perfect.
Exact. Good example. Good
Absolutely
example.
perfect.
And
She's better
Perrin.
at Phyla than Marcus is as Perrin. And
Well, Perrin is he's doing an okay job. Like he's great.
okay, I guess. But then
I'd say
again,
it's okay.
Perrin doesn't really ever get. Perrin always gets to be the lovesick hound dog for books and books and books, and I'm impressed that he even wants to do the role because I'd
It's a
feel
hard. It'd be a hard role. I think you have to be like a Robert Redford type of guy. Honestly, that when you don't say anything, I don't know if you ever
mm-hmm.
saw Downhill Racer. I mean, the
I
whole
did,
thing. Yeah.
I did.
So you're like he doesn't say anything, but you're just like mesmerized by him. And so you almost have to have that magnetism of not saying anything to be Perrin,
There is no presence.
and it's
Yeah,
not there.
Marcus
It's
doesn't
not
have
there.
a presence. He doesn't come
Yeah.
forward from himself like what I'm doing right now. Intensity. I'm projecting
It
intensity. Right.
it's not
You don't
coming
get that
across
from
the
Marcus,
screen, man. It's not
huh?
coming across. It's not coming across the screen. Can you hear me?
No,
Okay.
perfectly,
Okay. Um,
perfectly.
and we got Rand kind of surprised me in episode 4.
Of course he did, but
And go ahead.
no, not at all. Just that. No, he. What I was noticing was he played the characters as a string of persons who appear to be who to appear to sort of inherit some kind of soul atmosphere, not like the same soul over and over again, but and it wasn't the same person over and over again. These were different men that he was playing,
Mm-hmm.
but they were all variations on a central theme, which not even Rand himself exemplifies, which is kind of interesting because he played Janduin, he played Mandarin, um, I forget the name of the other one. The one who actually goes out and saves the girls and is the first one to pick up a weapon. But he played all
Oh
these
yeah, I can't remember
characters
his
so
name right now.
well. It doesn't matter. The point is that he had all these different environments that he was forced to be in, totally different makeup because their faces were different.
Right.
I just was really impressed, and that was one of the highlights of the show for me was that whole Ruidian experience was so well presented.
Right.
It was a triumph.
And that
I've never seen them do better. Just all there is. Uh, just
yes, this was this it? Yeah. So there's
Yes,
some
that's the
pictures
one
of
where
some different
the
ones.
boys get exiled. Remember, and again, it's the three boys. It's like a prior echo of our three Taverin,
Uh huh.
and so and I was amused that they didn't have the same actors play. Like to have Donald and Marcus play the other characters. I thought that was kind of funny that they did it with different actors, but evoking the same vibe, the same relationship, the same characteristics.
I think
It
this
was
is bad
kind of fun.
casting right here. This guy.
As the Marcus character.
Yeah, I was like, what is going on? This guy doesn't look anything like he should be there. Like, this was
Well,
good. This was real
yeah, that's
good.
right. That was Mandaean.
Yeah.
The first one to go. He was the first one to go through the pillars and find out why they were oath breakers. So
And they're doing good. This was just this episode. I wish all of them were like this.
of course, you know who wrote this one?
This is Rafe, right?
Right, Rafe
Rafe
wrote this
Jud.
one.
This is Rafe Judkins doing his
This
work.
this says he can do it when he puts his mind to it. He can do.
Well,
He
he
can do
loves the books.
the
I mean,
goods.
I think they understand what needs to happen, but they're it's like, look, we can't get the funding. They don't want.
That's what I
I
agree.
think it's
I can.
always been that way. Even back when you made Twilight Zones, uh,
Mhm.
back when Twilight Zones were made and stuff. If you look on the back of the Twilight Zone, at the end of the at the end with the credits, when they show you the credits, it's all partially funded by the DoD. So you had AID type funding being put into every Twilight Zone episode, and not just Twilight Zone, lots of other things too.
By the
That
limits, probably then maybe. Well, I don't know about Lost in
so
Space.
I'm just making the suggestion that it's hard to get things made if you don't put certain rhetoric in.
Oh, really?
That's kind of the point I'm trying to make. And
So do
so
you think, well, now that USAID is kind of like supposed to be a dead letter, do you think that that's going to have an effect on what,
money's
on
already
further
in the
confining Wheel of
beginning.
Time budgets in the
Well, I
future?
think so because if the money's not there and they're not spent, they don't have the approval to pay for NGO type situations where they were just getting, promoting ideas in other. This would happen in other countries too. Like, they
Right.
would take over like production companies and things like that, and then it's no problem getting all the funding because you're just putting the message out that they want to see. Just like an
Mhm.
advertising person, like if you're watching Aliens, and you see the Reebok drop, nobody's wearing Reeboks. But back then, they spent enough money. Ripley in the future and when we're out in space is wearing Reeboks.
It's fascinating. This, yeah, this is more a conceptual thing because I don't think they're going to get away with any kind of product placement
No,
in this
I was
universe.
showing the product placement because that's another way that they get money. But there's
Oh,
other money that needs to be put in there, and also like, look, we're not going to air it unless you have these things. We want to promote this in America. This is what we're trying to promote. So yeah, to a certain extent, maybe if those things are still kind of left in place to in some fashion, in some way, that we will start seeing some money being put in different rhetoric that's coming in through because we are at a generational type of shift to a certain extent. And so we're going to see kind of this pendulum swing back. And how is that going to manifest itself into movies? Maybe we go into a kind of, you see, there's lots of things being popular like The Chosen and House of David. And, I've actually talked about this for years about how we might be going back into a Sesame DeMille era, where we have kind of just movies that are like the Ten Commandments, and back then it was Ben Hur and El Cid, and like really just good stuff. Like but then you had like propaganda movies like In Harm's Way, and like all the war movies back then were all like propaganda movies, to try to get. They're
oh,
great
yeah, the
and really,
Alamo.
and they're great acting, Um, Kirk Douglas and John Wayne and people like that back in doing incredible stuff. And then you had the Dirty Dozen years. All the what were they? Frank Sinatra and all those boys. The Brat Pack of actors.
Well, that's the oceans. That's the oceans thing. And
Well,
Robert, you said it.
that's the next. You're saying the Oceans thing is the same type of thing?
No, I was when you said the Dirty Dozen. The first one came to my mind was the Wild Bunch
Oh
and
yeah.
the Professionals, and Once Upon a Time in the West, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and what My Name Is Nobody. That stuff.
Now, am I suggesting that there's government funding being put into Wheel of Time? Not really, but I'm talking about the structure. This is a big production. It takes place in Prague. They're shooting the whole thing in Prague. Between Wheel of Time and Lord of the Rings, there was like $100 million spent in like using all the locations and all the places and stuff in Prague. That'll give you an idea. They had to build sets, and I mean, we're talking huge budgets. And can you imagine
Yeah,
making
go
all
on.
these decisions and stuff like that? So Bezos, it would have to be within the Bezos kind of like ecosystem, because Prime is the primary back then, you heard little rumors like Jeff Bezos wants his Game of Thrones, you know, and that was kind of the rhetoric before Wheel of Time came out when they were making it, that he
Right.
wanted something on that level that HBO, they kind of, all these competing Netflix and Prime and all these are the new the new versions of what was the
Studios.
home box office and Cinemax and all those things back then, Band of Brothers would be a good example of a very high-end production, or From the Earth to the Moon, and all these big productions that HBO was able to pull off, where they had like theatrical, like movie level productions, and people would pay their subscription fee just to watch those things. Well, now
Right.
we're in a new era where it's like on demand. You got HBO doesn't have its own streaming service. They always partner with somebody, and all these old cable companies basically continue to make products. Even MTV has done a very successful job producing content in an executive kind of writing idea and branding capacity with the Yellowstone stuff. You
Hmm.
got the Yellowstone origin stories. You got all the 5 seasons of Yellowstone, and so that's MTV putting their money forward, because they you don't it's not like you can go on MTV and watch music videos anymore, and like
At
you remember
all.
VH1 came out, and then there was VH1 and 2, and that the second channel played more videos than MTV used to, and they started making all these shows and stuff. Well, now they take their money and they throw it behind these productions, and you see it in the beginning because you see a little astronaut with his flag saying, and you hear Sting in the background going, "I want my MTV," like it,
I
uh,
remember.
and then it's
I'll
Yellowstone,
go back to the beginning with them. I was there for the. I think I missed the opening day is all. But for Wheel of Time, the question will be whether any of that kind of propaganda funding money will, because they're obviously the season still very subtly pushing a what amounts to a nihilist pansexual message.
Well, that's my
Uh,
biggest problem with it, and you can't take every culture within the book series and then make little microcosms of the whole world within each culture that you're depicting and make them all the same.
that's what it was supposed to not be.
The only one you could do it with would maybe be the Shido, maybe, and the Shanshin, because the Shanshin would just make you take an oath, and it didn't matter your race, and you could be a part of, you could ascend, you could go and be, even if you weren't pure, to the whole thing, and that makes sense. It's kind of like the Roman Empire just taking over, different countries and making them part of themselves, and absorbing them. That's the Shanshin. Then you have, the Shido, which could be it's a very similar type of thing. They have like a, but it's a definite
More like
culture.
the
But you have
Mongols.
mixes. You still have mixes of people because they take over people. You know?
Yeah, but they're more like the Mongols, don't you think? Kind of
Yeah,
like
yeah, for sure.
where they're kind of an invading locusts kind of deal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, where
But you
and
can't just
it's
say, "Oh, they're all mixed races in every culture, and they all are woke. All of them are woke in every single group,"
I
because
know
that's not reality.
it's not. Well, what's not reality is saying that the same moral code is observed in every culture in a world where the cultures were in fact separate for centuries.
On
They've had
purpose, because they don't.
little to no contact at all. So,
Right. And it makes it
I
so
mean,
when you read the book series and you see that Rand is like so different looking and doesn't look like anyone else in the Two Rivers, well, that doesn't matter anymore. In this
but it's
version of Wheel
supposed
of
to be
Time
all
on
the
TV, it
difference in
doesn't
the
matter at
world.
all.
Yeah, it's supposed to make all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
Um, and but again, that's them when the premise they were departing from might be but it isn't just a Bezos world kind of premise. It's also a Zuckerberg. It's
I don't even know what
it's all
Bezos.
of
I
those
don't know what he
guys.
thinks about the. I don't know what his views are. Like personally, I don't know what Bezos believes.
I
You know.
think he's just as much a universalist as any of the others of them.
Yeah.
And the whole idea is that they want a global culture that is monocultural. Everybody has the same wide open.
No borders, no walls, no USA at all.
That's their world, because then they can market to the whole world. Then it's a lot easier for them to make trillions selling the same stuff in Nepal as they sell in New Zealand and in Nebraska. It's all the same, just a different label on the thing, maybe. Just because New Zealanders like to have a U in their words and we don't like to have a U in our words. So they say couleur and we say color, and otherwise you can't tell the difference between the products, and that's
and
what
it's
they're aiming for.
and back to the whole subject matter when it comes to, we could have just easily just done all of this and kept it the way it's supposed to be, and there's a bunch of places where they could have just, in reality of the book series, kept and checked off a lot of these boxes that they're trying to check off,
I
because
can
there's
name the
so much
place.
going on.
Tier. Tier's the
Yeah,
place.
sure.
Tier was the marketplace of the world.
Mhm.
Everybody else was somewhat. I mean, they skipped the bit about how Aridoman and Terrebonne were having like this forever war,
Right.
and they skipped that whole thing. Um, and that was an opportunity that was an opportunity missed. And what is happening is, one of the things that Rand brings to this is, weirdly enough, in the course of the books, if they did them, according to the way the thought process was going, he's mixing everything. One of the things that here's a character we haven't seen. We haven't seen Barrelane Serpendrag, have we?
No, and that's that.
What happens to her? What is she?
And
What happens to her? She gets sent to Carol. She gets sent to Kyrian with Ruark, and there you have Aiel and Myeners and Ilianer. Well, not Ilianers, but Tyrans and some Andorans, all mixing up in Kyrian. So sooner or later, Kyrian is not going to be the what pasty faced short people with square towers anymore. Going to be just
right.
like anybody else.
And you
It's
remember
going to be
also
cosmopolitan.
as the books progress, we start to see a little bit steam technology coming in, and like telescopes,
Fell, that whole thing.
and like this whole idea. And so as things, that was just I'm so tired of it, dude. That's all. I'm just so
They're not
tired of the preaching and all of the forcing. It's like taking a square peg and trying to put it in a round hole. It just doesn't work.
what they did was, they jumped, in a sense, they jumped the shark, because they put in at the beginning of the series what was supposed to be one of the points at the end. One of the things that was wrong about this world, there were two big things that were wrong about this world. The one we're talking about is that the places were all monocultural, and they were mutually suspicious and warlike, and they kept each other at a low medieval level of life, because they were so bigoted. It was so Europe 1350. And the whole point of Rand was to scramble that, to stop Ilianers hating Tyrants, hating Myeners, hating Kyrians, hating, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That after a while, you lived in Saldaya, that didn't mean you were any particular slanted eye thing, or whatever is the key, the whole Phyla thing, where or Bashir, Davram Bashir and his wife.
Hmm.
I mean, those the sense of
Well,
that
people are
that
alive that
ex-
shouldn't be alive, and like,
people are dead that shouldn't be dead.
Perrin was married in the beginning, and like, you got this relationship going way too long with Rand and Egwene. It just shouldn't happen. There's no way that Elaine and Avienda would ever be together. It's
Not in
just a
that sense.
it's like a fantasy. That's just it's not true. It
It's
would never be true, and this is why the whole thing doesn't work, because if it's only one wheel of time that it worked for Rand, to be the Dragon Reborn. This is my biggest problem with the whole thing. It always just rubs up against me. If it's only one turning of the wheel that he wins against the Dark One, you might want to try to make it as close as possible to the story that is the only time that it all happens. And if you change everything, it's another turning of the wheel, and you're suggesting that I mean, at the end of the whole thing, he should lose.
I just got a whole Groundhog Day vibe from that statement you just made. That they're doing it over and over again until they get it right. And unfortunately, now the one time they're doing it when they're supposed to get it right, it's still being done wrong.
Yeah, and
It can't work.
how is
It
this
can't
all going
work
to
because
work
they're
at the
blowing it.
end if he's going to be the one that defeats the Dark One, and everyone's not where they're supposed to be, and Tom isn't like where he's supposed to be? I mean, we're talking. This is serious. How many times does Tom just show up just at the right moment to save Matt or to save Rand?
Or to give good advice, or to
Just to
center and
be,
ground Elaine,
yeah, to
to
be a
to
presence.
be the, I don't know, he does, and then eventually to rescue Moiraine. I mean,
And
you
and
know,
and they fall in love, and then
they've blown it.
and then what about Swan? Falling in love with who she doesn't want, and she was real
Gareth
stubborn about
Bryant, who
that,
they've
all like
mentioned.
falling in love.
Gareth, they've mentioned Gareth, and he has been exiled. So that at least that plot thread
I mean, that the plot
is
point's in
correct.
there, and we know he exists. They're talking about
So
Gareth
he's on
Brand.
his farm right now. So the deal is that um, the problem is getting Suan and Lyanna to him so that
Well,
they
right now it looks
with
like Elida is gonna like seize power with a keeper. There's gonna be a
sure.
power struggle. She's gonna take back. She's gonna take over, and then
She's
maybe
already got all the Yaren.
maybe this whole ending in the dream world with saying goodbye to the relationship baloney, will free her up to have. But it's still, the whole thing is messed up because it just assumes that anything could go either way, and it's the underlying preachiness of Wheel of Time on the TV series is that the woke culture is normal in the Wheel of Time,
And
and
it's
it's
not the
and in
normal world.
every version, no matter where you live in the whole map, it's all the same.
Well, at least all of the sea folk look to be black, so that's something.
And in the sea folk, I mean, why not do the new, like, have topless
I
sea
don't
folk
know.
women?
I was curious. I was
Yeah,
waiting
like,
for it. I was going to see,
yeah,
are
you're
they
gonna
going to
show
have the
some
guts
sweat
to do
tent stuff,
that?
but you're not
And
gonna
no,
do
they
that.
didn't. So
And then
whatever.
you don't have all of the women in the tower pull down their shirts to, there's some
When they leave
ceremonial
the port,
things
yeah. And
where they could
the
have
girl
done
gets in
it.
trouble for pulling her top down too fast, too soon.
Uh,
That was a fun scene. And
and then
also,
go ahead.
they've also missed the opportunity to have the scene where the sea folk demonstrate their integrity and their strength of character, which is pretty
Well,
stern.
look, you have this
And
amazing role reversal thing going on there, and there's so much already in Wheel of Time that they just could
you
have
know,
stuck with it, and everybody would have been happy. Okay, very
yep.
slight, very small, less than one half of a percentage of people would be that they're focusing on right now, and
Remember what I
because
said
because
before.
the women
This
are in charge
ties
in that culture, in the
Sure,
Seafolk
they're in
culture.
charge in every culture. The deal that I was saying was that what has happened here is they've simplified and flattened,
Simplified.
and because of that, all of these nuances go by the board. And so the suggestion that and any kind of demonstration of peculiarities about local cultures is chaff, and I think they think we're too stupid to be able to cope with it. Honestly, I
No, I
think
think I
they're
think they get
talking down to the
sidetracked.
audience.
I think they get sidetracked and get too hung up in the numbers. When you're like trying to run a TV show and you're looking at weekly numbers and you're trying to look based on like how many eyes are on it and like, you know,
They can't be doing that here. Besides, they finished the whole series a year ago. They finished this season a year ago. So they've had plenty of time to re-edit, reshoot, whatever they thought was going to have to be. The stuff that's happening as we're watching it is absolutely completely after the fact for any kind of introspection about what are we doing? Why is it working? Does anybody care? Are there eyeballs at all? This is way it's all water under the bridge before they even premiere the thing, because they hang on to it so long since
Well,
this whole
I know a
cultural
lot of
innate
people who
rings of
never
power
read the
thing.
series. So lots of people I talk to that haven't read the series, they love it. They're like, "This is
Yeah.
a great show. I love it." Like because they never know any of it. They don't know any of it. So to them, it's not as they don't have as a meaningful connection to the whole package. And so they can't look at it macro at all. They can't look at the whole story. And if it didn't for them, it is the first time for Rand, so it'll work. If you've
True.
never read the books, and then Rand wins at the end, it's only one turning of the wheel, and then they're probably banking on the fact that most of the people out there watching the TV show will never read the books.
Well, it's a challenge too, isn't it?
I mean,
I
yeah,
mean,
I mean it is a challenge. It's like a rite of passage. That 14 books
so
later.
the thing that I was just thinking about is, remember I was saying about the simplification deal. The the consequence is that you're either looking at this as just another TV show, just another House of the Dragon, just another Acolyte, just another Mandalorian, 8 episodes, bam, thank you, moving on. Or you say, the source was a work of art. Why don't we make a work of art, or a work of cinematic art, like he made a work of literary art? How about that? We're asking for the cinematic art. All those normies are asking for a TV show. They got what they want. We're sitting here going, yeah, but, yeah, but, yeah, but, and we
Yeah,
have, and
and
we have every reason to be justified in saying so, but it's not going to make any difference. They're not going to give it to us. They're not going to fix things. They're not going to ever have these characters logically progress through a narrative. They're going to do whatever the plot requires them to do when they get to that point of the
I
story.
actually was so thrilled by episode 4 that I don't care if they have another few episodes like that. That would be great. And if they can pull it all together by the very end, maybe I'll, be okay. But
When I watched, I was just thinking, if I was going to rank these 5 episodes, I would say 4, 3, 2, 5, 1. That's the order in which I'd rank them as quality, just as
right.
and I rank it as a normie. Now I'm watching it as a show, and I'm saying which, this is, um, because obviously 4 is head and shoulders above everything. I mean, it got a 9.5 on IMDb, okay, but the others are getting
Four
8.2.
four did. Four did. Yeah.
4 got a 9.5. That's Shawshank Redemption level of approval
It's good
at
entertainment, man.
IMDb, and it is worth it. It really is that good an episode. But the others are getting high ranks too. And when I look at 3, I'm not that disappointed. It was a climb.
No,
1 was harsh, 1 was ragged, but the 2 was better, and 3 was better,
it's
and 4
getting
was
better.
magnificent.
They're trying to put the pieces back together.
Mhm.
If they can
But
get Matt, I don't understand what they're doing with Matt. Like right now, maybe I just don't get it, and they're keeping me. They want to keep us readers on our toes, but they have some type of solution to fix it. They're not gonna, dude. That's a hard one to fix.
they're putting Rand in this is what, now if I was Rafe, and God knows I would never be Rafe, that I'm putting most of Matt's story happens in the West. I mean, he's going to remember how long he's going to send in Abu Dar. He's going to be in Amador. He's going to be in
Mm-hmm.
Amadisia. He's going to be he's going to be. I don't. Yeah, he even gets to Saladar, but he's always in the west of the Westlands. So they're putting him in there now, and they're kind of jumping all of the time spent. He spent in the east, and he worked his way west in the stories. They're just jumping all that stuff and putting him straight in the west. That's my call about what they're doing. It's again a
Well, and he's there.
simplification.
He's in the right spot in the sense that he's there defending his friends, which is what he's
True,
known. Yeah.
but he wasn't supposed to get there yet.
Right.
He was supposed to get there after the fact, and
Well, and they
he's
already
constantly
look. He never got his memories of the past of all of that ever until he had already gone to Ruidian.
right. That's where he got them, because he
And
said,
so
"Fill in my memories," and they said, "Okay, here you
and
go," and they
that's
gave
where the
him all
scar
those
comes
memories.
from, around the neck, and everything happens there
Right.
when they go in together. And then Rand, when he comes back, sees him there.
Hanging.
Not Moraine.
Right.
He doesn't come out with Moraine, he comes out with Matt.
Okay, explain something else to me. What is that stupid ball?
It's a it was put there when the tree was put there, and it was when they showed all the way back in the beginning, it was sent with from the Age of Legends, and
I'm,
I think you're
exactly.
right. I think it
That's how
replaces.
they made the fog. That's how that Latra Sedai made the fog that hid Ruidian. That I get that, but
Yeah,
what was Moiraine doing, and why do we care? She just scoured the ground in a great big beautiful but
we don't know.
uninterpretable pattern.
Yeah, what's she doing with it? Like, I
I don't
honestly,
know.
I
They
think
just
that they're
left
alluding
it.
that part of that whole experience was her channeling with it and being. I guess I don't know. I actually
Again,
don't know what was she
right.
doing.
And it made for a really neat
That's a
special
good
effect.
point,
I have
Paul.
no idea what it meant.
What's
The
she
the
doing?
only scene,
What
in
is she
fact,
doing?
the only scene that made any sense for me for her in that episode was her getting drunk with Lan on Usquai. I thought that was a really cool scene. That
Yeah,
was
that's cool.
really sweet because it was like, eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we could die and
That's
have
so
fun.
funny though that you break that up because what's she channeling and what is the effect and why does she have this thing from the Age of Legends, which is really, which I think you're right. I think it's the replacement. They're going to replace the two statues.
Yeah, that's that. I first that's what I thought it was it was her Choedin Kalki for
You could
the
see, yeah.
statue on Tremalkin.
I think that
But
you're
they
right
haven't
about that. I think,
introduced the statues. Remember they introduced the one statue. The Kyrian
yeah.
are digging it out when they walk by in the Great Hunt. Remember they go, oh wow, look at this, and that turns out to be, with the guy with the statue with the guy holding the globe aloft, and then the two little statues he finds that are scattered
Oh
among all
man, yeah,
the
and then we
big,
had the big. So you had big version and the small version. Remember, he comes into the town,
right.
and they're excavating, and Celine. That's what should have been happening when they showed, so back in the early first season.
Yeah,
They should have been showing them uncover this gigantic statue.
yeah,
Duh.
yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I'm seeing. Remember, I said about simplifying. They skipped Camelin, so
It's such
so
an
this is
epic
why
scene
Rand
too
and
to
Elaine
see
have
the
no connection.
to
They
know what
should.
it is under there. Like to see it, like maybe partially sticking out would have been an amazing
Yeah,
scene.
they can still. They again. These things can be fixed, but the beat is missed. And I just realized that losing the Camelin scene means that Rand actually, you know that Galad is Rand's half brother.
Right.
They share a mother.
Yeah.
Tigraine is the mother of them both.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I don't even know if Jordan made much about that. He just mentions it, but it never ends up making a difference between the two of them.
No.
But that's something you could exploit, that they're, that closely related and that completely different in their ways and means and approach to life. Again, the wonderful dramatic thematic things you can do when you're a grown-up scriptwriter, and you realize that personality and interaction have meaning and have consequences, and you should probably
I just
exploit
don't.
that
I don't
for
like it
dramatic purpose.
when they take the most purest characters in the whole story and they make it that sex is a casual thing.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just casual. Everybody. It's just nothing.
But
You know.
that is the Bezos world. Okay, that is what they're
I
trying to
guess.
sell in
I don't
terms
know.
of the global marketplace. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
it's pure cynicism, and it takes the form of Gnosticism and nihilism and fatalism. Those are the three
I
biggies
agree.
for
I
for
agree
the
with those
godless
statements.
world. And this is they're selling it through all of these series. I don't
Yep.
know. I don't know about House of Dragons. That actually sounded to me like it actually had a very weird but relatable moral order. I might be wrong
No
there.
way. There's no way.
No, Ray. So okay,
No,
I'm
I
just
mean,
guessing.
you know the history of that's like
I've read the
saying
books. Yeah, I've read the book.
any of that is going to have anything redeeming in it.
Yeah, that
There's
was
not
that
really
was
much
his.
redeeming in the Game of Thrones series.
Oh no, I read like five of the books,
Yeah, I
and I
mean,
stopped because I
they're
just couldn't take it
entertaining.
anymore.
They're serious.
I had more fun reading the Sword of Truth series than I had reading
it'll
the
keep
Song of
it'll
Fire and
keep you
Ice.
up at it'll keep you up at night. It's
Oh,
probably the wrong
geez.
it's
Oh
wrong.
my
It
goodness.
probably kindles the wrong desires.
So, how old was I? I wasn't young when I read this stuff. I mean, the thing I read when I was young was the Thomas Covenant Chronicles,
Did
which
you
nobody's
read
ever going to
Without
make into a movie.
Remorse?
No, I don't know that.
It's a Tom Clancy.
No, I've never a big Clancy fan. I liked his. I liked the movies they made of his stuff, but I never read his books. I think. What did I read? I read one. I don't. Kind of fun, huh? Yeah, my dog moved to the next room. That was cool. So, but this will be a little thing to cut out. So, when we look at season 3 as it's progressing, it is better than seasons 1 and 2. It is a little erratic. It is having some narrative problems. It's struggling to try and stick to a narrative that will flow. It is not necessarily the canonical one, though it is. You can see echoes of it. The characters are not the same as they were in the books. The um, the character I'd have to. So far, Phyla is the one who's truest to her book character, but then we haven't seen anything really from her yet. So
No,
there's
but she
plenty
has
of
the right
time for her to go
attitude
off the
and the
beat.
right screen presence for sure.
Did you notice that she and Chad and Bane are already a team?
Oh yeah, of
So
course.
that was a great development. That
That's
was very nicely
and
done.
that was very nicely, that's a good nod. That's a good nod to the literature.
Absolutely, because it's really vital to that entire narrative.
Hmm.
So
It makes the
because see what I'm
dynamic
saying?
between
This
those
is what I'm
characters
talking about.
work.
Where the interpersonal relationships being properly exploited makes for great drama, and it becomes engaging for the viewer because you can say, yeah, I'd do that in that circumstance. Yeah, I'd hang with that person. No, I wouldn't hang with this other person. You get
Okay,
you
I'll
get
give you an example of this playing out in another thing. So my wife never liked Star Trek. Like most of our marriage, she was just like, if I put Star Trek on, she wouldn't watch it. But when she saw the Kelvin timeline, J.J. Abrams versions, and she fell in love with the characters because of the way they were presented, then all of a sudden I'm watching an old TV episode like from the original series, and she starts laughing at it because she understands the characters and the interplay between the Doc and Spock and the comedy elements that are part of their character that J.J. Abrams did an incredible job of bringing back to life, even though and here's a place where they made changes because, well, in
significant.
the Wrath of Khan's different, and
Yes, it
things
is.
happen, but it's in a different timeline. But still, it's such a nod, and there's so much. They didn't change the characters and the interplay between them. It all works, and she still could recognize it even back in the '70s version and enjoy it then, even because she couldn't watch it before because she just couldn't get into it because sometimes psychologically they can't look at this old stuff and get into because it just looks so hokey. But then when she fell in love with the characters, then she was all of a sudden following following along. And so this is the same kind of thing where we're like, what we've fallen in love with certain characters, and we know that how these dynamics work, like what you're saying between those characters and Perrin, and when you get the right combination of those things, it works, and that's why they're successful. That's why people keep buying the books.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Not and
That's
so
right.
that's what we needed to at least have. You could change a bunch of stuff all you want, but don't change the core characters. Don't
Exactly.
change their core, and they've changed their cores, and that's
Yes, they
what's
have.
making it not work. If they want to fix anything with Wheel of Time, fix the core characters, and then everything works. It's
I don't know
already
how they
mixed
do
up
that now.
enough.
I don't know how they do that now.
I know.
Let me think. Let me think. Do I know which characters? When I think about it, Marcus is doing Perrin correctly. Um, Donald is close to Matt. Um, the lady who's playing Varen is very
Hmm.
close to the correct. The woman doing Liana is perfect. She's perfect as Lyanna. Um, the Kate Fleetwood playing Leandrin, fantastic. Though she is not the character at all in the book. Um, she's she doesn't have that bee sting mouth. I remember him. It's kind of like like Homer would say that Hera always had cow eyes and stuff, and it
Hmm.
was the wine dark sea and stuff. And he'd always say she had these bee stung lips, and it stuck, and then the ringlets in her hair. But like I say, Phyla is perfect. The two girls, Chad and Bane, they're perfect. I'm I'm liking Ivienda now, but
Yeah, I like Ivy. She's doing good. Like, but at the same time, that it's weird. It's a weird relationship with Elaine, and it messes it up. That's what I'm trying to say. Like
that's
that kind of
wrong.
stuff really screws me up.
And the adversity between her and Rand is not pronounced enough.
Yeah, it
It's
needs
more
to
like
be. She needs to be more on his case all the time and not happy at
right,
all to be around him. They did a little bit
exactly.
of that in episode 5. I saw when they're ordering her to go and kind of be there when he wakes up and be around him all the time. She doesn't seem
That was
happy about
appropriate.
that. So maybe we'll start to see a little bit of that play out.
I saw her, and I saw her being snarky when she's giving him instructions at dinner. That was pleasant.
Hmm.
But again, it was not the really acid tone that I picked up from the book. She's not playing Avienda as the um, really strong woman that she was in the books, which is and so that's she's got to work on that. Um, I think that Daniel Henney is doing what he can with Lan. They haven't
I think
given him
he's one of
hardly
those.
anything to
Honestly, he's
work
the
with.
strongest, most consistent character we have
He
right now.
is, but they're not giving him enough where his natural that what I'm saying is his stoicism is supposed to be to flow like a leopard would flow in the jungle. It's
Yeah.
supposed to be so natural to him that he never even has to, he almost doesn't have to think anymore. And he will go exactly to the right place with exactly the right move at exactly the right moments.
Hmm.
Swish, 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 end of problem. And
That's because he
so
was
we could
born that
always
way.
count on him. And if he wasn't present, that's when the peril would happen. Because
Yeah.
now, no backstop. You could guarantee if it was Rand, if Land was there, good stuff. Land's not there, bad stuff. So that's that sense of him being perfectly competent is missing. Though I like how they're letting him emotionally come out about the issues about Malkier. That's great stuff,
Yeah,
and
that's
that should
good.
have emerged in the
That's a
first
good
season,
character building. That's good
but they
character
didn't
building.
allow it to. But that's where they reused Melindra. Remember, she was supposed to be the dark friend who was supposed to corrupt Matt.
She could still be the
Remember,
dark friend that does that.
she could. Um, she had, see, what I'm afraid is they're going to work it as a love triangle between her and Nynaeve. That's what I'm afraid of.
Whatever. We're not going to be happy with any of these stupid
But that would
portrayals.
be a stupid development, is what I'm saying, and just like them to do, because given what they're doing with Elaine and Navienda, I don't see them having any moral scruples about any mess up for how relationships actually work among adults who don't just routinely go, "Oh, you're pretty, let's sleep together." That's not what adults do. It's
No,
what
it's so
teenagers do.
shallow.
It is. That's why I say it's teen. This is the Vampire Diaries with 27-year-olds. Okay, and it's no more appealing here than it was there. All
Hmm.
right, and I mean that show had such potential, and they ruined
The
it with
older
their
I get,
stupid
the
high
more I
school
know that it's not
antics.
appealing. You know.
Yeah, because it's dumb. It's
Yeah.
it it's it's pro it's almost basal, and
It's
there is
cheap.
no forebrain involved,
It's cheap.
and it's just depressing. I mean, I go back and I watch movies like Sleuth when I want to get my head back together and appreciate truly astounding acting by two men who know how to do it and who are magnificent for 2 beautiful hours of cinema. Just
Yeah.
in, if you've never seen the movie, people go get Sleuth. Not the modern one, get the old one with Laurence Olivier. It is a
Well,
masterpiece.
if you guys want to follow along with us there, who are watching along with Wheel of Time, go ahead and chime in on some of the things that we brought in to the
Please.
discussion today. We want to hear your thoughts, no matter what they are, and we'll engage with
Especially
you.
if they're especially if they're argumentative. We want to hear you argue with us, please.
Yep. And
Then we'll go
we
to the front of the
also
line, as they say.
and we appreciate all of you out there who I think on these segments we get about 200 or so people chiming in and looking at these longer form videos. So thank you, and we appreciate it. We want to hear from you. So don't worry if it's in another language. We can translate it, and we'll get back to you and engage on that level. If you want to support us, go ahead and send us some funds there on Ethereum or BTC. It works around the world. Just use your QR code there to open up your wallet, and we'd appreciate that as well.
A little practical love.
And
And thank you, Jesse. Good session.
thank you. And so next week, next Thursday, we're going to be getting into a breakdown, and we're going to have another guest on with us, Anthony. Uh, and we're gonna be looking at Who Framed Roger Rabbit. So
Do, do, do,
that'll
do.
that'll be fun. We'll see how that goes.
Mhm.
Another Christopher Lloyd special.
The
Chris,
Robert Zemeckis strikes
you know
again.
his name is Christopher Zeus Lloyd.
That is awesome. Yep, he's can you think of a bad role he did?
I actually think almost every role he ever did had something to do with electricity.
Festus for sure, right? And of course Doc Brown.
It's crazy. It's kind of weird.
It's a kind of a thing with
It's
him.
the lightning bolt, the Zeus part.
Trying to think in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I don't recall. Don't He has kind of a background role in that movie.
Yeah, he was in. That's a good movie though. I like that movie.
Oh yeah, it's a great movie. Oh yeah,
That's one of
oh
the
yeah,
better. That's one of the best movies ever.
yeah. It is. The Jack
But
Nicholson is wow. So okay,
we got to end it sometime
enough
here. So,
rambling. Enough rambling.
see
We
you on the
must
next
move
one, Paul.
along.
Thanks a lot. I
Thank you.
appreciate it. All right.
Talk to you soon.